All right. Hello, everyone. Let's see. Let me make an announcement over on my original channel. Uh, Thank you for those two people who are here already. Please hit that like button. So I'm going to make an announcement over on the original Big Discussions 76 channel, and I'm going to ask another prominent content creator to share this, as he said that he would. Let's see. I'm going with the avatar today because this is how we do. Let's see. We're going to talk some science. Not doing anything. Please join us. All right. So I shared that over there. I see Tampa Supreme is already in. Welcome. Okay, so now I'm over back at my channel. All right, we got a lot of folks rolling through. Let me just make a quick announcement or ask one of my collabs to share. Then I'll get this started because I know Nicole's time is valuable. Let's see. Someone actually uh, suggested that me and Nicole should do something regularly, but no pressure. She's got a lot to do, so um, us being the scientists, the biological scientists in the sphere. Where is this person's? Almost done, guys. Almost done. Thank you for those who are here so far. With Nicole. If you see fit, please share if you see fit. All right, guys, here we go. All right, so that's going to the cloud and to its destination. All right, guys. Hey, welcome back to my channel. My name is Dr. Anwar Yusuf Dunbar, and this is Big Discussion 76, Science and Technology. My brother's actually making an updated logo for this channel for branding purposes, so you'll see something different than this. I am not camming up today. I'm going with the Abby, as I usually do when me and Nicole click up. Though, interestingly, the first time me and Nicole clicked up, I did it via Zoom, and I recorded it and I edited it. But since then, you know, it's a case by case call whether or not to cam up. But I'm just going to go with the Abby today. Um, Welcome. Today is January 15th. It's Martin Luther King. It's Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Weekend. The year's flying by quickly already. We're already at the middle of January. A quick announcement. I'm gonna kind of walk you through what's been going on with me. Then I'm gonna bring Nicole up. She's backstage, and I know you guys want to hear Nicole work her magic. Um, as many of you know, I'm a writer. I wear many hats, and I'm starting a newsletter for my LLC, the Big Words LLC If you notice, all these names connect, big words, big discussions, all branding. So this is in the description box below. Um, if you want to keep up with me as a writer and the content that I'm creating, I'm working on a book, and I talk about a lot of things. Uh, and there's a subscription button right there at the bottom. I promise that your information will not be sold or abused. I envision sending this newsletter out once a month at this point, because I have a ton of projects going on right now. But I just wanted to make this quick announcement. So let me minimize this, and I will start. I'm just going to run through my last couple of videos for you guys, and then I'll bring Nikole up. It's easier if I can show this. Hope everyone's staying safe out there. It's in the 20s here in the DMV. It's supposed to get down to 15 degrees tonight. Actually, that's not the window that I wanted. Give me a second here. Uh, yeah, we'll go with this one. Videos. Okay, making progress here. That's the one. Okay, just a quick recap of my last couple of videos. So, we're coming off the holiday season, and of course, it makes sense to make a video on the Christmas star. So that's there. There are multiple explanations for the Christmas star and what it is. A comet, a supernova, or a planetary conjunction. But the one that came after that was me testing positive for um, SARS-CoV-2. So on Christmas, I started feeling a little funky. Um, I would call it the shivers. I had the shivers. Um, I guess maybe that would be a fever and the body reacting to a fever, but I felt cold on Christmas, and it got to a point where I put a hat on and I was drinking tea all day, and things kind of tapered off after that. And I if you watched any of my streams on my other channels, I think that Monday or Tuesday, you know that I was kind of losing my voice a little bit because I had this throat thing, and then I was supposed to go down to Atlanta for the New Year for a birthday party, but I went and got a drive up 15-minute test for $65, and they sent this to my phone: SARS-CoV-2 detected. So I was in Buffalo for the remainder of my stay. I had to cancel my trip to Atlanta because I didn't want to infect anybody in the Airbnb we were going to stay in. It was hard to stay back from the festivities, but when you're thinking about the larger group, you just kind of want to make a responsible decision. And I was a little nervous about going through the airport as well and getting on a plane with this Omicron floating around. We will talk about this a little bit. The previous videos I made, YouTube hasn't taken down. These are for educational purposes only. We're not telling people what to do. So that happened to me over the holiday season. And then I decided to just kind of follow things a little more closely. So I posted an article in my community tab. I think it was last week. BGS read it last night, I believe, and shouted me out, cited me, and as you might expect, he got the litany of comments underneath that video. I think some were nice. I woke up this morning to read something not so nice from a commenter. But what intrigued me about that article, which is in the description box below, is that it pointed out that um, they're immunization pools. So the point is, if you have a pocket of people who get immunized, notice I'm saying immunized instead of the other word. If you have a pocket of people who are getting immunized, they're going to have some protection. This is the theory. They're going to have some protection against the contagion of interest. But if you have another pool of people who are not immunized, then you have a pool of people for which the contagion can, in theory, multiply and multiply and mutate. So I didn't make the connection between um, in terms of why it's important to get as many people immunized as possible. But that's when the light bulb kind of turned on, and I made the connection. Why? Because if you have a pool of people who are not immunized, you're going to get more infections, and you can get potential new mutations and variants. So that's that video, and I think those are the videos that I dropped since Christmas discussing this. So that article is below. The article is basically arguing that the country needs to lock down again. And if you listen to BGS's video, he made some compelling comments as to why we won't. It'll be too expensive, and I don't think our current president wants to do that. And I don't think any of us want to lock down again. But I would just caution everybody: be safe out there. Do what you think is the right thing. I am immunized. I will come out and say that I am immunized, um, and I got boosted when I was, well, shortly around the time I found out that I tested positive. But I'll just say it. Yeah, I did it. I feel fine in terms of my SARS-CoV-2 positive. I feel fine for the most part. I still have and I think I'm coming out of this. I still have a throat thing. I still have some scratchiness there, but otherwise, I feel fine. So with that, if you notice, I've been sharing content from a gentleman named Dr. John Campbell. He's over in the UK. I think he's got really, really good content. He's following this stuff much more closely than I am, or that I can. So I would encourage you all to subscribe to that channel because he's doing a really good analysis on this thing. So guys, with that, I'm going to bring Nikole up, and we're going to talk about, well, we'll just see where it goes. She's experiencing this thing out on the West Coast, and we'll just see where the convo goes. Then we'll open it up, and we'll see where that goes. So with that, I will bring up the Scientist Supreme, Don Calypso's Sith Apprentice, Nikole. Welcome, Nikole.
How you doing, Dr. Dunbar?
Oh, I'm hanging in there. How about you?
I'm doing good. Got this little baby here, but other than that, I heard you say something about COVID positive or whatever. I'm like, not Dr. Dunbar. I
Yeah,
didn't know. I
no,
saw that thumbnail that said detected. I was like, what is this? Is not. Yeah, I didn't
yeah,
get a chance to look at a lot of videos. I'm sorry for that.
yeah. So everyone, I just dropped my Cash App and PayPal there. I don't have a super chat over here yet. If you feel so inclined to make a donation, those are welcome. Yeah. So what happened was, because when you get a positive test, you start backtracking and thinking, okay, where the hell did I get this thing? So
Yeah.
it could have happened in any number of places. So because I had planned to fly out of Buffalo to go to Atlanta, I had to break my trip up. So I had to go see my father, and I had to go out to Buffalo to see my mother. So what I really wanted to do was get a one-way rental car and just drive the entire way. But under my brother's family plan, 'cause my brother works at Enterprise, they wouldn't allow us to do that. So I got on the train,
Oh
which,
wow.
yeah, so that's 3.5 hours from DC to New York City, changing trains in New York City.
Mm-hmm.
And there's another 2.5 hours from New York City to Albany, where my father lives. So we went to go see Spider-Man in a theater full of people.
Oh yeah. Yeah,
Then
that's
And then I got on the train to ride another 5.5 hours from Albany out to Buffalo.
Mm-hmm.
And then let's see, we had a gathering, a little mini reunion with some of my high school alumni. You know, people and people. We were in that bar mixing around, and I was going to the gym when I was there. I was in the mall trying to
You
get
were
some
active,
things.
yeah.
Yeah. And here's another not so funny story. My brother's roommate lives downstairs, and we heard that I was over. He said, "Oh, come on downstairs." And I had my mask, and he said, and when I get down there, he says, "We don't wear those things down here. Take that thing off."
Mm-hmm.
So I could have gotten it from anybody.
Yeah, that's the story I've been hearing from a lot of people, adults anyway. Um, with children, it's usually, we know because usually their parents will have it, or a classmate or something. But with adults, it's hard to pinpoint it now. And I think that's one reason why I have to agree somewhat with what BGS says, is like they're not going to do another lockdown. Like the tracing that they were doing before was a lot easier. Contact tracing now it's more difficult, and you're just one person, and look at all the places that you were able to go, and still somehow it was transmitted to you. The transmission rate of whatever, I don't know which variant it was, and I don't know if you can even determine that yourself, but that makes a difference too. Different variants will have different transmission rates, and but I'm glad that you're doing better. Of course, did you have to be hospitalized at any point?
No, because I took the
Stay home.
and the question is, if you took one of the immunizations,
Oh yes.
was it protective against the new variant? But I took the J&J back
I
in
remember
May.
that.
Yeah, and no, I didn't have to go to the hospital, but
Okay.
I did have the chills and the shivers pretty bad on Christmas, and then that tapered off, but then I still had um, a throat dryness and a bit of a
Mhm.
cough. So,
Yeah.
but you know what I realized is the isolating piece. That's hard. That's hard. You gotta stay back from everybody, and
Yeah.
my mother. Fortunately, my mother didn't make me leave the house. She didn't say, "Okay, you got to go back to DC now," because you know that there were these events I was supposed to go to, and then if I had to come back here with no one to talk to, that's hard. Having to isolate and not be around anyone, that exacts a very significant mental toll.
Yeah, mental toll, and not only obviously people would say depression, but also because of everything going on, and then you're isolated during that time of year,
Yep.
during the holidays, but also anxiety. And that's where you can make mistakes, make the wrong food choices. I mean, we've been having workshops about this for a while now. Um, People aren't driving properly and
Oh.
not dressing their children properly. I mean, it's just a lot of stuff. Not remembering to do certain things that you would think, okay, that's common sense, but the anxiety and the stress is not helping, which then, of course, is going to manifest physically with more inflammation, maybe a longer um, fight with COVID, for instance, or a longer fight with something else that's not even COVID. A simple stomach flu or something, or the flu itself. So yeah, I'm just in general, I'm glad that you're better.
Hmm.
I can't say for sure if you being immunized, if that really, we don't know like for sure,
No.
because you have to be able to track a person's antibody production and the efficacy of the antibodies the moment they are immunized all the way until they perhaps get a breakout infection. And how, who's going to pay for that, those types of studies. And then even if they do the studies, who's going to believe it?
Hmm.
But yeah, like you can say, because it can be a combination of things, and you don't even know what to put on first on the list. Is it the immunization first? Is it the eating right? Is it the exercise? What is it? Is it the rest? Got enough rest? And I don't know. Now I will say people who have been who were infected before they even developed the J&J or AstraZeneca or Pfizer, any of the immunizations that they had, they were saying that the natural infection, meaning infection without any shots, was way worse for them. That's what a lot of people, these are nurses saying this.
Mm-hmm.
But I can't say that for everybody. I just, this is three people, um, three nurses that I know. They were infected way before they were affected before they even talked about developing any immunizations from different companies. So it was like, okay, they said it was much worse, that they couldn't do anything. And then I talked to them after. I was like, well, how'd you feel after you got the shot? They said, well, getting a shot, for me personally, and for them, they were saying the first shot was cool, no issue. I had no issue. I had like a slight headache for a couple of days. The second shot, I got Pfizer. I have not been boosted, but I got two Pfizer shots. After the second shot, I felt horrible for like 3 days, really bad. And they said the infection that was natural was worse than that. I was like, damn. I was like, wow, okay, now I see what you mean. Like, soreness, that was the number one thing I had. I felt like I had been hit by a truck or something. My whole body was sore. My eye sockets were sore. Behind my ears was sore. Everything for like 3 days straight. I couldn't walk that good, like because of the soreness, but also I was dizzy. And they were like, "Oh, it was worse than that." They couldn't, they were telling me they couldn't breathe. They had all this phlegm and stuff like that. But I
So
asked them, okay, so do you regret taking the vaccine? They were like, no, or the immunizations that they had to take, and the way that you had to take it. Do you have a problem? Because people are being boosted this like second time, being boosted now, some people. And they were saying, no, I don't regret that. I just regret being, out and about and getting sick, So that's the thing.
Okay, so let me get this straight. So they were saying even after getting immunized and getting infected, it was still pretty severe.
Yes.
Gotcha.
It was still pretty severe. Not as bad as it was without it, but it was still bad. It wasn't like, oh, I'm just gonna go. Like I have a friend that's in Puerto Rico right now. I have one that just came back from France, another one that just came back from Japan, and the one in Puerto Rico and the one in Japan got it while they were there, and they said they had already been immunized before they went, and they said they were fine, no problem. But the one that went to France, she said it was bad. It wasn't like as bad as she thought, but it was pretty bad. She didn't have to go to the hospital, but it's I think on the lines of what you were saying, your symptoms were like that. It was more like I don't have to go to the hospital, but even now her throat is like messed up, her way she talks, and this has been over a week now. And but I mean, out of her family, 7 people got it while she was in France. I'm like, what in the heck? They had to go to hotel after hotel after hotel because the family members just kept getting it, and they couldn't stay at their grandmother's house.
Okay. So definitely it's more transmissible, which has been reported. Now, interestingly, my mother shortly after I tested positive, she got tested. She didn't have it, at least not at that point. She did develop a bit of a cough, but when she got tested at that point, she didn't get it. She didn't test positive. So everyone, please hit the like. Once again, I don't have a super chat over here, so if you want to make a donation, I don't have Nikole over it all the time, so donations are welcome. There's a funny comment here from Don Calypso. He says, check your Facebook and accept my friend request at Nikole Ali. AB Media says, I have to wait until April to get boosted. Oh, that's interesting, AB. If you could share
Mhm.
why, I mean, you don't have to do it publicly, but that's interesting if you have to wait that long.
I have to wait until March
Oh, why is that?
because they have so many days between your second um, second shot and getting boosted. So it's like to the day I have to go get my boost, but it's like I don't forget how many days, but it's so many days, and I did not understand that. Like I was requesting a reversal on that because I already know that you get so many days of um, like I guess stimulation of the immune system when you get immunized. You get so many days of that stimulation occurring, so
Mm-hmm.
many days of antibody production happening. And then if you're not stimulating those the production of those antibodies by infection, I mean things go down. Of course, the immune system is going to remember it, but there's nothing there to kill. So it's like a lot of people were wondering, well, how long does antibody stay in your system? It doesn't stay in the system that long. One medical doctor was talking about how out here he was saying a couple of months. Like 3 months, 90 days. He said you're pretty much just almost back to normal. So this is why you have to get another shot. And the boost that comes, we were saying it comes too late. Because my second shot was what was that? I think it was like November or something. It was way before the holidays, sometime November. And I'm like, why am I boosted in March? I should be boosted like in January, I would think, or in the early January, but it didn't happen. So I don't know like the logic behind it. It also has to do with the type of shot that you got. That's another thing as to when you'll be boosted. Because I have coworkers, I have friends that have been boosted already, and we had our first and second shot around the same time. They've already been boosted.
Okay, so it sounds like you went with one of the mRNAs.
Yes. Yes, one of the mRNAs. And so also with me, why well, it doesn't matter if it's mRNA or not, any of them, even adenovirus type of shot, I'll be able to pass sorry, antibodies down to my daughter through milk. So I was happy to be able to do that at least to help her. She's been exposed, like I was telling you earlier, to SARS-2 and everything, and daycare. I'm still worried about it because something about me and antibodies. I don't know. I don't really trust like antibodies like that. So I've worked with antibodies with mice and different things on projects, injections and stuff. Everything doesn't always work. And I'm sure like when Dr. Calypso probably knows as well, antibodies with Western blots and how it doesn't always work out for you.
Yeah.
With the binding, because antibodies in your body are going to be binding to something for activation or inhibition. And do you have something to say now? When I stop you looking around. So the antibodies on the Western blot very similar. They're going to bind. They need time to bind. They need time, for activation, all that stuff. But I just think that like people, I just hope. I should say that I hope that people are not still saying the same things that they've been saying like since in 2020. I just hope that they've learned more than the past year or so.
Okay.
We'll
Don Calypso, no, that's not how I got it. No, that's not how I got it. And I want to make an announcement just to the YouTube screeners or whatever. This is just for educational purposes.
Yes.
Only. This is for educational purposes only.
Entertainment purposes.
Entertainment purposes.
He said, "Why don't you tell the truth and admit you were?" Oh, Lord. I didn't even look at the screen.
Yeah, it was up there. I want to thank Ebony Knight for the Cash App. anyone wants to make a donation, those are welcome. I don't have a super chat over here. He asks, recovering after 2 weeks, any advice? So I'll say that I've resumed. It's partially because my mother, because she's in the vitamins and stuff, but I resumed my vitamin regimen. I was doing that before getting immunized, and then I kind of fell off. I think the assumption is for the folks who get immunized, and Nikole, I'm sure you've seen this. I think folks thought it was a bulletproof vest.
Yeah.
And it's not going to stop you from coming into contact with the contagion. So I would say be cautious. If you weren't on a vitamin regimen before, every little bit helps.
Yeah.
But don't, if you're immunized, don't assume that that you're walking around with a plastic covering over yourself. Go ahead. If you have anything.
Yeah, that's what people thought, and they still think that to this day. That, which that's very sad, that you can just, I mean, even people in my family, they're just like, whatever. I've been immunized and I can just do what I want. Or one person in my family has been immunized, in my household has been immunized, so I'm good. I'm like, really though? Like, okay, so if it's 7 of y'all and one person has been immunized and they keep going, they're still doing what they're supposed to do as far as distancing and protecting themselves and staying healthy. But everybody else in the house is like, I'm not going to get immunized because, one person did. I said, wait, it's not like they can sweat it out and rub it on you and you just, get the effects of the shot from that. Like, that's not how this works. Unless they are somehow, pumping breast milk, giving it to you to drink, you're not going to get it you're not going to just get it because by osmosis,
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, how are you, that, what is the thinking coming from? I'm like, wait, I thought we went through this in 2020. Did we go through this together? And they're like, nope, I went through it with my family before the shots came out. I was like, hey, you guys, you need to know this, that. But people don't listen. And I'm like, okay. So at this point, I'm like, well, whatever. Whatever happens. But yeah, you still have to take precautions. I know I have to take precautions every day. I see children and I see adults lined up every day at my job, every day. Children lined up and their parents holding them because they can't stand up because they're that sick. And nurses and whatnot walking up giving parents a mask or something because they're like, oh no, I don't need a mask, I'm vaccinated. But you're standing here in line at the ER with your child who's sick and about to die, probably, if you don't get them in here fast enough. Where is the sense? Like, I don't, just human beings, I just don't understand sometimes. And I'm just riding by like, what in the world? They're like, oh, that's not going to do anything. But these are free. First of all, they're free. Free N95 mask. And I was like, can I get the N95 mask? No, you work here. Get out of here. Like, dang. But, they're free N95. And you're just like, oh, no, I don't need that. I've been vaccinated. And the nurse is like, but you will just take it anyway, put it in your pocket or something. Like, they can't make you put it on, but they have to give it to you at least. And give it to your child, like give it to you for your child. If you don't want to put it on your child, they're like, okay, whatever. As long as I gave it to you, at least I can sleep at night. That's on you. You don't want to put it on, that's on you. I don't get that. Like this whole, crazy brave, shout out to Charles Faulkner, the crazy brave type of mentality people have. Like it defies logic. And it's not like it's a new concept. It's just like, oh, I don't understand why people don't get it, but it's okay.
Yeah. Let's see. I want to acknowledge Complex Design. We're planning to link up tomorrow to have a technology discussion. Yeah, I think this whole thing has definitely been a kind of an intersection of science and politics and current events. I think I have 2 buddies who got immunized and they swear they're not getting anything else. I think part of what we're seeing is people feeling like their rights for being infringed upon.
Yeah.
And there's resentment in terms of being told that they have to do something.
Yeah, I understand that. Being told you have to do something. And no, that's what I'm saying. Nobody's making you do it. I'll never tell you, you got to do this, you got to do that. That's not my job. Like, that's up to you to make that decision. And I just hope that people make the decision based on, what they're going to put in their body, based on their own research they've done on both sides of it. But when it comes to a mask, okay, you being a little silly. It's a mask. You can throw it in the trash. Like, it's not gonna affect your, internal physiology of your body. It's not gonna affect that. You're just putting the mask on. Just, if you go to other countries, you don't put it on. They put you in jail. They give you citations, all kind of stuff. This, the country we have is on some punk stuff right now. Moist shutdowns and punk, all kinds of punkery and everything, where it's like, well, if you don't want to do it, like, no, you need to do it. You don't want to do it, go to jail. Like, that's how other countries, I don't know why people don't act like they don't know that. That's how other countries are doing it. Like, they've been doing it. Like, hey, you just go to jail. Citation, get out of here. Get him out of here. You don't want to follow the rules. And so I understand, like, with something like in your body, I get that. I get it, totally get it. But like other things where it's the first point of contact, just covering your mouth reduces that point of contact, that transmissibility, transmission rate that they've been talking about all this time. You can cut that down by a very significant percentage just by putting something over your face, over your mouth.
Mm-hmm.
And people are like, well, I don't want to do it. You're like, okay. Now, I used to be like, wow, you need to put your mask on. I used to say that, well, we're at a medical facility. You have to put it on with other sick people. It would be good for you to put that on. But now, even at my job, even at the facility, at the hospital, different places, I just walk right by you. I'm like, okay, I'll just nod and keep it moving. Because I'm like, you know what? I thought about it. And Jason and I talked about it. He was like, it's their right. They're Americans. They want to do what they want. Let them. He said, we're all Americans. We have our rights to do this and that. So, okay. He said, now you don't have to be in the same company as them, and I agree and I don't. Yeah, that's right.
Let's see, I was gonna say something. BGS has talked about that a lot in his content. First of all, thank you to BGS and the Roger Report.
You said what?
I said thank you to the BGS and the Roger Report for sharing this in their vast networks. I know that BGS has been very outspoken about the fact that our country is very liberal.
Yeah.
Versus countries like Germany that are a little more total. I can't think of the word. Totalitarian.
Mm-hmm.
So in other words, if they say you got to put a mask on and do this and this, then you better do it over there. But over here, we have a lot more wiggle room. Don Calypso says there is a silver lining with Omicron. It'll speed up the rate of people acquiring natural immunity. And I've been sharing Dr. John Campbell's channel a lot in my community tab. He's echoed that as well. And also, interestingly, he's of the opinion that Omicron will, how should I say this, make the Delta less
severe.
Mm-hmm. It'll take away environments for which the Delta can multiply and replicate. So it's going to help usher out the Delta.
Well, I don't know, because the two differences, and I could be a little off with what I'm about to say, but you can correct me, of course. But the way that Delta works when it wants to get entry into the cell, any cell that it sees it wants to go to, it uses the spike proteins, and it requires a receptor like a TMPRSS ERK receptor to be on the outside of the cell. Then it can gain entry into the cell, multiply, do what it does. Basically, the I think the thumbnail you had on this video, where you have one virus that goes in, two viruses that go in, influenza 1, influenza 2, or virus 1, virus 2, or genome 1, genome 2, host cell, and you get a new virus, new genome, right? So that type of concept. Because do trust and believe, like just because you have Delta does not mean that Delta itself is not heterogeneous. Okay, so when they say Delta, that's just the main part of the genome that they are detecting for. That they want to say this is Delta or Alpha, to discriminate between the two. But like for me, Delta needing that receptor to get into the cell puts people with Omicron at a disadvantage because Omicron does not need those receptors to enter the cell. That's the problem. It enters by like passive diffusion.
Interesting.
So that's what I was learning from my boss the other day. He was telling me, he said, that's the main problem. He said, I mean, this was last Monday. He said, you know what? Everybody pretty much going to get it. And he's been the main one saying for all this time since it started back in February, late January, early February of 2020, he's been the main one saying like, oh, we can't get this. Nobody can get, oh, we got to avoid getting this. We got to avoid getting this. This is horrible, horrible, horrible. He's saying, you know what? Everybody pretty much going to get this because Omicron is passive diffusion type of virus. It does not require as much lock and key mechanism like Delta, some of the others to get in. Then you have this newer strain, the I forget what the IHU, I think, from France. Yeah, that one from the International Health University there in France. That one is, a lot different as well. So I don't know. I disagree that one can kind of offset the numbers so that the other one will be a little easier on people. I don't know. I think Omicron is worse because at this point, it's several factors. But number one, because of its transmissibility is much higher than the others. And number two, people are more complacent right now. It's getting warmer. People are going to start to become more complacent. And yeah, people have to work. So they have to put themselves at risk. And they're like, you know what? I'm vaccinated. If I get sick, as long as I don't fall over and die, I'm going to keep working, keep doing what I have to do. But yeah, that's my take on it. Like, I think that Omicron is worse. I don't think that, I think it's worse if you get Omicron and Delta at the same time. I think, of course, that would be worse than getting any coronavirus strain with the flu. Now, I think, getting two coronavirus strains at the same time or, at different times, but you're infected, I think that's much worse than even if you are have your vaccine, have your immunization or whatever. That's still bad because you could be damaging organs. I've never heard of it, the flu damaging organs like that. But yeah, what do you think about it? Because those are questions that I would ask Dr. Campbell.
Well, I'm not an immunologist or a virologist, so some of this stuff I'm learning firsthand. I think I'm still kind of wrapping my mind around the fact that one variant can cancel out another. But I'd love to see him or someone else break down how that occurs.
Yeah.
I want to show everyone else these cartoons that we just showed one. Again, I've been learning about this as I've been going along. This is an article. This is somewhere in my community tab. There was a nice paper that I found, or that was sent to my smartphone. And I didn't before this. I didn't know that viruses could basically their genetic material can combine in a host cell to create a new variant. So that's something that we're in these discussions to keep in mind that can happen. Also, another one from that same paper showed this, that different viruses can evolve and mutate at different speeds. So if you look at this virus A, it mutates 4 times slower than this virus at the bottom, and also just in general over time,
Yeah.
You have to keep creating new immunizations because just over time, I believe this one is called anagenic drift. Just
Mm-hmm.
over time, the nucleic acids, the genetic material in a virus is gonna, the more it replicates, that's gonna alter over time by nature.
Yeah. Ebony Knight had he asked the question. He said, "I just happened to see it. It says, with nutrition and supplements, can the body repair the damage over time? Not that I know of. Like, that's a good question." Aquateki said they form like Voltron. Pretty much. I mean, everything wants to remain as one, meaning remain intact. Anything that's existing wants to remain as, remain intact, meaning survive. And so it's going to do what it needs to do to continue remaining intact. And if that means that you suffer for it to remain intact, then either you die off, or meaning you're no longer one, or everything that is in your body naturally needs to fight back to break whatever is causing the problem. So, your immune system needs to break that invader, meaning that virus, or be broken. That's how I see it. I mean, that's true. What you're looking at, antigenic drift with the viruses, absolutely. Like, that is something
So,
that we see where if you switch out the word antibody for um, some type of, let's see, we used radioactive materials to try to change the way the viruses would be, so that we could detect the viruses in a cell. And you just detect it with, we have this radio isotope there. You can just detect it that way. And that's easier. Or maybe you put some type of dye onto the virus so you can see that. Over time, with antigenic drift or a plasmid drift, or viral drift that you see, they don't accept the dye or the radioisotope that we have, because wherever it was supposed to bind, that piece of the virus has changed. So now we deal with that even in my lab, because I'm not a virologist or immunologist either. Disclaimer. But I will say that when you're doing genetic work, you see the same types of things. So it's definitely possible. What you just showed on those pictures, those images, yeah, that happens. It's just a matter of how often it will happen. And you can't normally tell that just by looking at the genomic, or the RNA or DNA genome. You can't always tell just from looking at a sequence.
mm-hmm.
You have to see this virus in action doing what it's doing. Um, but yeah, very interesting stuff.
Well, on that same vein, I saw a report the other day that the Pfizer CEO, Dr. Albert Bola, I had that correctly. He said that they're going to have Omicron immunization ready in March.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah,
So
I don't
hopefully this
know.
thing stays under control, for another 2 months. Otherwise, we'll just have to keep making new ones over and over and over again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because of Omicron, everyone's not going to take it. Everyone's not going to get it, obviously, for whatever reason. So, um, by choice, or just because. But then if you have this Omicron shot, and let's say you're going to do it 2 or 3 times, then and people they've already had shots. Yeah, you're, like you just said, you're pretty much, to me, you're opening the door where you're going to have to constantly create more of these shots to immunize people, because um, Omicron can easily turn into anything else, any other variant it wants to. We have to remember that when they say these variant names on the news, when they say them on these videos, they're not telling you you have strains and you have substrains. Okay, so that's another thing to keep in mind when they say, like, oh, in Nebraska they have, they had Delta and it just won't go away. But then maybe in Florida they had Delta and it went away quickly. Well, there's different, there's strains and there's substrains. It's like The way I learned it is you have a loaf of bread that's already sliced up, and you just randomly, that's a strain, and then you randomly pull out a couple of slices of bread out of that loaf, like 4 slices out the middle, and then close it back up. Now that's a substrain. And from the 4 slices that you have that are from the original strain, you pull out 1 slice, that's another substrain. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So you're just then from that 1 slice, you cut it in 12 pieces and pick out 2. That's another substrain from that original strain that you had. That's how I learned it when it came to cutting up plasmids and viruses and stuff, and trying to see if you could mutate them and see if they could reverse replicate themselves from a small piece. So when it comes to viruses, no matter how small the piece, usually they're able to replicate back to the original strain they came from. It just takes time, but usually they can do that. The problem with these with the SARS-2 is they're doing it so quickly you can't keep up with them. You know, so if you get infected with Omicron, knock on wood, but if that happened to you, if I got infected with Omicron, the one you have may be Omicron 1.37. The one I have may be Omicron 2.37. So it's the same strain. It came from the same mother strain or parent strain, but there's a substrain that you have that I don't have, and vice versa. So you have to make like I said this before they even had any shots available, like you have to make these drugs, like these immunizations that you're giving, all these shots that they're giving from different companies, they have to be broad spectrum. Very broad spectrum. And they have to be cheap to go back and alter. It has to be very cheap to alter them. And it's not like, oh, well, if we have to alter it. No, when you have to alter it. Because like I just said, you have a lot of substrains of these things. And I mean, Delta, it killed me how they went from Delta to, it was something else in the middle that the United States didn't really talk about. I think it was like Lambda or something. They didn't really talk about it here, but they just completely stopped talking about Delta. I was like, to me, it's also, to be honest, Dr. Dunbar, it's like a lot of dramatics with some things that they do. And I'm just hoping that we don't get caught up in that, because, they stopped talking about Delta on, the news, but they didn't stop studying it in the labs. That's how I can say, they have these substrains.
Okay, wait a minute.
Viruses.
So let's go back.
Studying it.
So you said they're talking about it in the news, but they're not studying it.
No, they're not talking about Delta anymore. I don't see them talking about Delta that much anymore.
Oh, I see.
Not here. I mean, in the United States. In other countries, sometimes you'll see it here and there, but it's very, very rare that you'll see it, like maybe once a week or something. Maybe there's a cluster here or there, but they're still studying it. Just because they don't talk about it in the news doesn't mean that we don't, keep working on whatever it is, because you need to go back and backtrack what went wrong. Delta was like, out here at least, it was horrible. It was bad. It was really bad. I was like, wait a minute. I was like, hold on. They skipped, like anybody that knows the Greek alphabet, they skipped a lot of letters there. Like all of a sudden they were saying Omicron. I'm like, hold on, how you go from D to O?
Okay. So they've been going in alphabetical order.
Yeah, but I mean, you can look it up on like PubMed and stuff. Like some of those variants, it may have affected like 100 people or 500 people here and there in one country versus another, or maybe 50 people here. But they're not going to report that on the news. Maybe there in that country they'll report it, but they're not going to report it everywhere here. If it has, I think it has to cause like a certain death rate or infection rate at a certain threshold, like maybe 1,000 or something.
Mm-hmm.
And then they may talk about it, but yeah, they went from, Delta, and I said, yeah, went to Omicron. I said, yeah, okay, Epsilon, Lambda, that just, y'all never talked about Beta and Gamma. I mean, only person I know talks about wild type, alpha, beta, and gamma is Dr. Fauci. He's the only person. They never talked about those. I was like, where's wild type? Like, they never talked about it. Okay, yeah, here you go. Epsilon, zeta, like you have all these things: iota, kappa, lambda, mu, nu, chi, omicron. Yeah, chi and omicron. Like, yeah, they didn't say anything. Lambda was one that I heard of, like maybe 3 times, like literally 3 times. That's it as far as papers. And I was like, okay, so they're getting like you hyped up, and I'm like, okay, yes, Omicron is bad, but people didn't ask where are the others. Whether they just disappeared, did they just not develop? Or I think it's because the numbers, it didn't cause there weren't enough numbers to cause a panic, and they dealt with those. Maybe they were easier to treat against or something with standard treatment in the hospital. Maybe that was what it was. Maybe you didn't have to be intubated or put on a ventilator with those particular strains, if they did affect people. But I always wondered that.
Okay.
Yeah, she said, Shonda said that. She said they skipped a lot of Greek alphabet to get the Omicron, Lambda, and Mu variants didn't get a lot of national attention. Right. That's why I was like, I didn't know if it was, and see, my thing is, the ones that don't get the attention in the news, or do get the attention, doesn't matter. All of them are going to be studied. So the ones that didn't get attention, they may have not caused, like I said, the bad symptoms, but those are the ones that you should study when you're trying to develop something. Hint, hint, like the ones that don't really cause these bad symptoms and really bad hospitalizations. Those are the ones you can study, because you can use those in comparison to the really bad ones. You can use those as a control against the bad ones when you're trying to develop something, some type of, drug or something that you're doing. Mm-hmm. That's what I would do. The ones that's not causing the cancer, the genes that aren't causing the cancer, we study those, the tumor suppressors. Okay. The ones that are causing the cancer, we knock them out. They're gone. So we don't care about them. Mm-hmm. So it's just food for thought, people, for people to think of. But what were you going to say?
I was going to say, thank you to Mackenzie Kendall Mayweather for the Cash App. Much appreciated, guys. I don't have a super chat over here yet. So if you want to make a donation via Cash App or PayPal, that information is here. If you're just coming in, please hit the like button. If you have questions in the chat for either one of us, please let those rip. I'm gonna point something out kind of basic here, which I'm sure everyone made the connection on a long time ago. When I got tested, I didn't realize why they were swabbing the nose.
Yeah.
And I realized when at this last round and watching Dr. John Campbell's videos about some of the basic research and where the viral particles and nucleic acids are localizing, the entry point is the lung. So they're able to, if you watch his videos, they're able to track the viral nucleic acids and the viral particles in the respiratory tract. So I made the connection and said, okay, well, if it's in the respiratory tract, then you're breathing this stuff out. Mm-hmm. And it makes sense that particles are going to deposit in your nasal passage. So that's why they swab your nose.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's just easier. It's more acceptable to swab a person's nose. I mean, they know what's going to be. I mean, when it comes to your mouth, it's harder to swab there because it's constantly things are constantly being flushed out. Right? You're swallowing them. So it's we're not flushed out, but it's being swallowed. You're reconsuming a lot of those germs, mm-hmm. whether you know it or not. So, but in your nose, it pretty much stays there. It's also more universal because you can do swab tests for children, from young children. I mean, you can swab test babies if you needed to, all mm-hmm. the way up to older people. You can also swab test people who are unconscious.
Wow.
In a coma, for instance. I mean, people may say, well, it doesn't matter if a person in a coma. Well, people have said crazy stuff the past few years, but anyway, Well, why does the person in a coma need to know if they have COVID? Well, if their family members come to see them and they have COVID, you know, you want to prevent that from spreading. So you could periodically test that person, even if they're in a coma and their family is allowed to come see them for whatever reason. That is allowed by the hospital. Some hospitals are allowing the visitation, especially the past couple of quarters. They've allowed the visitation, people to come. And I know they have swabbed people who were in a coma, you know, maybe in a traffic accident, because they've had a lot of accidents lately. And so that is, I've seen that, and it's like, okay, I get it. Overall, yeah, there's nowhere else you can swab. It has to be in the nasal passage, nasopharyngeal cavity. And when they do the different tests, that was another thing, because you said that you had when you had COVID, it was the rapid test. So that's the 15-minute test they do. That's basically like plus or minus. Like you have it detected or it's undetected. So there's a certain threshold, like a threshold that says, okay, under this threshold, you can't detect anything, so you don't have it. At this threshold or above, you have it. And so that's how they did it. 15 minutes.
I got the sense that it was a very, very, because this was literally a drive-up thing, and there was a long line of cars.
Yeah.
And I said, okay, so this is a very, very quick and dirty way of testing this. And honestly, I was thinking, wait a minute, with all these people coming through at this rate, did they get it right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Did they mix this with this? Was this someone else's? But when you get the positive back, you just gotta roll with it. You know, you just gotta believe.
Yeah. It. See what like some people have done is like rapid. I've never gotten a rapid test, but if I had to get a rapid test, I would be like no and follow no, and I'd run out, run away. It's like no, I just throw the paper down and run away. Yeah. No, I wouldn't be so dramatic. I would say no. I'm gonna get I'm gonna get a second opinion, and I would go get I would get the full test. You know, seriously, I would get the full test that takes about 24 hours to 48 hours to get.
Yeah.
The results back, and you can also put a rush on it, because you can say, I have COVID symptoms.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like I'm sure you had COVID symptoms at that time. And so people put a rush on their COVID test. I've gotten back results. Like I got the test, nose swab, like in the afternoon, just after lunch. I got my results back that next morning. As I said, I have symptoms. I have a baby. Well, I mean, I literally had a baby at home, but I have a baby at home. And I have symptoms and COVID symptoms specifically. And they said, check off which one you have. And I checked them off, and I wasn't lying. Like it was what it was. I simply just had a cold. Didn't want to risk it. And they gave back my results the next day, early that morning, said negative. I was like, okay, fine. But if I had a rapid test, I probably would have just gotten another test within 24 hours. That was a full 24-hour test, 24 to 48-hour test. Yeah. Just to make sure, because like if you're going on a trip or something, they will not accept the rapid test right now.
Okay.
For a lot of places you fly to.
Yeah. Yeah. For me, it was, oh man, I'll never forget it. It was like a catch-22, because my flight was leaving that evening. So that test dictated me going on that trip, regardless of how reliable it was. So, and also my window of time was like very, very small to go get another test of some sort. So, good times. Well, let's see. Wow. BGS, thank you for the Cash App. Much appreciated. Anyone else wants to donate, Cash App or PayPal are there in the chat. Well, Nikole, we're right up on an hour. I want to be cognizant of your time.
Yeah.
So I'm going to ask you.
She's asleep now, but it's okay.
Yeah, I'm going to front this by saying that for my 9 to 5, we're still remote, and we're going on 2 years being remote.
Yeah.
The earliest estimate we got for going back into the office is the end of this month. Though I don't know if you know how DC works, where everybody gets on the metro to go to work. Logistically, I still don't know how we're going to do this. But for you, in a lab setting, can you talk about what what you all have been going through, what it's like now to go to do your research?
In the lab setting,
Yeah.
how things have changed. Oh my goodness. Yeah, we got the email it's like less than 2 weeks ago saying that we cannot, due to Omicron, we cannot have in-person meetings. Well, I wasn't in person anyway. Most of the time I was home, with my daughter, or I'm home. Like, well, or Jason was here because everything was telework. And so I have not been in a in-person meeting for a good while, so it didn't affect me. But other people were very upset that they couldn't have in-person meeting because that's really the only time when they thought about it. People who live alone, for instance,
Hmm.
like that's the only time they're really around other human beings. You know what I'm saying? So they were upset that they could not have the lab meeting in person. Like, I'm gonna write a letter and all this stuff. I was like, man, give it up. Just sit at your desk with your computer and go to the meeting. It's not that big of a deal. Or keep your behind at home when the meeting is occurring. Just stay home. Like, it's not hard. But, that's an adjustment that people are having to make, not myself, because I don't know, for some reason, I feel like Black people have this gene that's like, F it. Like, whatever. Like, it's like, whatever. Like, you've been dealing with this, just deal with it. It's like, deal with it. And other people, maybe not so much. They're kind of like, no, I don't want to give it up. Like, okay, stop being dramatic. Just sit at home. And the other things that are causing problems is now we have to work in shifts and they're just going off of that. I'm like, wait a minute, stop, pump the brakes. We had to work in shifts starting 2020 in April, when we went back to work in April. Why is this such a big deal? Like, people got, like I said earlier, complacent. They got used to everybody working together and all this stuff. And I never did like that. For me personally, I would come early. I was coming at 7 a.m. and I was leaving at 2 p.m. This is when I was pregnant. 7 a.m. to 2 p.m. Those were my work hours that I chose. If I could have come early or earlier than that, I probably would have tried to come earlier than that. But I was doing 7 a.m. to 2 p.m. And then I'm shifted to 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. So, we're still not full time for real, but it's something because by the time I go to lunch, there are other people coming into work. So we've changed our shifts. Those of us who have children come in earlier and leave earlier, and everyone else comes in after like anytime from 10 on or whatever, and they work. We can pick the days we want to work. For instance, I'm working tomorrow. So there are weeks where I work 6 days a week to make up hours that I've lost through the week. And there are weeks where I work 5 days a week like everybody else. There are weeks where I work 4 days a week. I'm physically there 4 days a week. And I work from home on one day. Maybe my daughter has an appointment or something. So I take the whole day off. And I think one thing is that's adjusted is not feeling guilty for doing what you have to do for your family. Like, not feeling guilty for that. Like I just said, if my daughter has an appointment at 9 o'clock in the morning, I probably back in the day, I probably would have like taken her to the appointment, rushed her to daycare, and rushed back to work and worked 8 hours. But now with everything going on, I can't do that. I've just exposed her to the doctor. I can't then take her to daycare and then expose myself to work. No, I need to rest. And so I think those are some of the adjustments people are making because we have 1, 2, 3 people in my lab that just had children, including myself. So we're all like, no, we have to make adjustments somewhere for our families. I know other people who may not have, children or who may not be married and things like that, but you still have to make an adjustment to always think of yourself to reduce your stress. That's one thing that's very important right now. That's been important for a while, right? Like reducing your stress.
I imagine this. I mean, having um, done research myself, I imagine this adds a layer of complexity to it because
Hmm.
if you have restricted hours or specific hours with which you can go in, um, you all have to coordinate how to get those experiments done, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Pretty tightly.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, I have to do that. I don't really trust anybody doing my experiments for me, but that's just how I am. But I still do my experiments. We had an issue coordination of not duties, meaning things that you have to do to maintain the health and safety of the laboratory and the healthy environment of the laboratory, but coordinating tasks for a specific experiment. And these were mouse experiments. So over the break, the one lady needed someone to come give her mice the dosage of drug, enzalutamide drug, by mouth, like give it to them orally, with the syringe, and it had to be done for 8 mice 3 times a week. She didn't know the calculation, so you have to get that done. You have to know how much you're giving per milligram or per gram of the mouse. You need to know how much you need to give in the per volume, like by the volume, because it's volume per weight. You need to know that. You need to know like how often you need to give it, how is it gonna last in the fridge if I put it in the fridge, how often I need to remake more of it. She didn't know anything. And I was like, okay, it's myself and someone else helping her figure that out before the break. Because during the break, she couldn't even, how you block out the dates that you're going to go for leave. She couldn't do that because she had to be there every single day during the holiday to give those mice the drug. Before going to do that, we had to train her how to do the experiment. And so that's one example of coordination. Someone had to go with her. Then she didn't have access. Oh, Lord. Then she didn't have access. So someone had to go with her. That someone was not me. Just letting you know, Dr. Dunbar, it was not me. I'm telling you now.
Yeah.
But she was like, well, you have access. Yes, I do. And she was like, and it was a long pause. And she was like, I said, yes, I do. And then someone else said, no, she has a kid. I have access. I don't have a kid. I'll do it for you. And I was like, I was going to say anything. I was just looking at her like, yes, I have access. And,
Wow.
and that's the thing I'm talking about. Not caring about like, you have a kid and stuff. And she was like, oh, I didn't mean like that. I said, yeah. Okay. Well, as long as it gets done, that's all that really matters. That's all I could say. That's all I could get out there. I was like, as long as it gets done, it's all that really matters. My mouse stuff has gotten done because I had to coordinate with the people who get paid off my grant to do what they need to do during the holiday. One of them wanted to go back home to China. I said, no, you got to do that next year because this project has to get done. Pretty much. That's pretty much how I said it.
Okay.
You're going to have to do that, not next year, but this year coming up, because she didn't go home when she was supposed to go home. The coordination comes where you offer a person time off, and when they don't take it, well, the experiment has still been coordinated. You still have to do it. And there's no, like, for me, even, there's no excuse. I have to do it tomorrow. I don't have an excuse. I have to collect my samples at a certain time by 11 a.m. I treated them yesterday at 11 a.m. They have to be collected 2 days later. So that's tomorrow, 11 a.m. So Jason will be here with Janiyah and with my daughter. And so, everything will go smoothly. But at the same time, like him being a dad, he's like, okay, and him wanting to take time off because he's at work right now. He's like, are you going to be at work all day? Like, yes. All right. And you have to take the time to talk about those things and get things. My main thing is like, yeah, it might be a struggle, but you have to get it done. You just have to get it done. However it happens, just get it done.
Yeah.
And get it done right. Get it done properly. Like, that's important. For us in the laboratory, and I know other people have it worse or better than us in our lab because they may have access to more equipment that we don't have. Most of our stuff comes from China. So we had a time for months where we got nothing from China. We had to figure it out with scraps, literally. Like, Thank God I went to Clark Atlanta, where we didn't have a lot of stuff anyway, and we had to learn how to make buffers from scratch. We had to learn how to do a lot of stuff from scratch at
Yeah.
Clark Atlanta that my Georgia Tech colleagues didn't have to do because they could buy it. But when we had the time here in LA, or we couldn't get stuff from China, I just went and looked at the back of the container and had to figure out how to make stuff from scratch with the right concentration and pH and whatnot. Because like I said, things had to get done.
Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna read this comment from Ray Alexander. I think this is. I mean, I don't know who this woman is, but I just pulled her up so we can all see who she is.
Do.
What are your thoughts about lead C19 virologist Dr. Kesmakia Corbett joining the Harvard University Chan School of Public Health as a faculty member and research scientist? Everyone, if you don't know who this is who this is, and it sounds like Nikole is familiar with who she is.
Mm-hmm.
So there we are. Kesmakia S. Corbett. Nikole, do you have any?
Yeah. So Dr. Corbett was a woman that they were saying helped to develop the SARS-2 protocol, not only just the immunization, or vaccination itself, but helped to establish the protocol to implement this and get it out. And I don't see her name anywhere on that. And her name is not on any, as far as I know, her name is not on any clinical trials that are pertaining to SARS-2 or SARS-1. And I'm not saying these things to discredit her or anything like that. Of course, she has her credentials. I have my credentials. Everyone else has theirs. But I have not seen her involved with, specifically involved with the clinical trials for SARS-2. And so I don't know. I mean, she can that's fine. If they want to appoint her to that position, that's fine. If you're going to appoint her to that position because she did so much for SARS-2, then I don't know. Because you have to show in our field, as you know, Dr. Dunbar, you have to show the publication record if you're going to be, saying certain things that she has said or doing certain things that she says she has done. So I don't know if that answers or addresses what he was saying. I have to go scroll back up. I can't see it.
He just asked, what do we think about her being appointed to this position?
Yeah, so it says joining Harvard University Chan School of Public Health as a faculty member and research scientist. That's fine. I don't see anything that shows that she is a COVID-19 virologist or a SARS or SARS-2 virologist that show like publication wise. Like when I look on PubMed, I've searched her name. I can't find her information.
Interesting. That's interesting.
So I can't find her information. I have looked. I don't see it. And if someone can send me something, maybe, I'd like to see that. Because I always look at articles. I look at the first, I just look at the first author because that's usually where that's a junior person in the laboratory. That's where they start, maybe a grad student or something. And I don't see that. I saw her on the news quite often, but not on the news. That doesn't matter to me. I don't care about that. What matters is what has been published. Not just published, but if there's somebody that, like they said, is in this position at Harvard School of Public Health, then she should have a lot of papers where she's the last author, not the first author. Meaning that if you're the last author of the paper, that means you're the boss of the lab. When people look and they see 20 authors, and I don't care about any of those authors, I look for the first one and the last one. The first author is like a grad student, postdoc, project scientist, something like that, or they're a junior. And everyone in between, honestly, sorry to say, honestly, they don't really matter It's the first person and the last person, because the last person is the boss. They run that lab, meaning that they pay for stuff. They have the grants for that lab. And I don't see papers with her pertaining to COVID or SARS or SARS-2 or MERS with her as the last author. That's my only criticism of her. Everything else, she's doing her thing. So for you to be the so she's gonna probably be she's not gonna be an associate professor. She'll probably be an assistant professor in the School of Public Health.
Okay, well, Ray Alexander, there you go. I think you guys can pretty much, well, you guys come to your own conclusions there. But
Yeah.
now, when I hear this name, I mean, there's been so much news surrounding this whole thing. It's hard to keep track of everything. But now, when I hear this name, I'll know exactly who this is. So, or let's see, hour 20 minutes, Nikole. You want to entertain a few folks?
Yeah, sure. It's your platform. It's fine with me.
I want to be mindful of your time. Before we do, you want to say a few words about what you found lately, what you're working on?
Okay. So I have
as long as you want.
one paper. My work. One paper I'm working on was submitted already, and it was submitted already to JCI. They rejected it, but it's cool. It's cool.
JCI is Journal of
Clinical Investigation.
Okay.
They said we didn't have enough clinical work and we had a clinical trial. So that kind of tell you how hard they are. And it's two other people I know who had clinical trials. They rejected them because they said their work was not, quote unquote, clinically relevant, just like mine. Okay, fine. And their trials, I'm just going to say this because I'm a little pissed about it. Their trials, my friends, their trials they weren't even successful. Mine was. Anyway, moving on. I always rub that in their face when we have, we have drinks online now. But when we when we have our drinks online, we're talking, I'm always like, yeah, your clinical trial sucked. But they didn't accept it. So now I'm in the process of doing what they said to do. The reviewers said that they wanted us to have more protein analysis and not just transcriptional analysis. So I'm doing Western blots literally tomorrow. I did Western blots this past week from Monday to Thursday. I did them all pretty much every day doing Westerns to give them more statistically significant data that's protein related and not just RNA, DNA related. And what it's going to show is that the androgen receptor inhibitor that we're using can regulate the binding of a DNA modulator. It can change how that DNA modulator binds to the androgen receptor. So, and it changes it by increasing it. So if you add an androgen receptor inhibitor, androgen receptor expression goes down, but the mutations and variants of androgen receptor go up. Those mutations contribute to more prostate cancer cells being developed, bigger tumors, and adding that inhibitor makes the whole process worse. It increases the variant expression. That's what I'm showing. They didn't believe me from the other 6 figures I had showing the same thing over and over, basically different ways. So I have to, do what the reviewers ask, because if I put it to a higher level journal like Cancer Research or I don't even know, like Nature Communications, something like that, I'm kind of scared to go to Nature, but maybe like Cell or Prostate, if I go to one of those journals that are higher level, I have to have all these different pieces of data that address the previous reviewers' questions. And so those are the things that they wanted. They wanted like a binding assay, RNA binding assay, not a standard protein binding assay. They wanted an RNA, specifically RNA binding assay with similar to like CHIP, which is chromatin immunoprecipitation, but they wanted that's binding to the DNA to protein. They wanted RNA binding to protein. So in order to do the assay, I had to develop primers from scratch that I never thought I'd have to develop. And I had to test all the primers on samples that I grew myself. had to validate all the primers and everything. Then when I had the real experiment, I had to validate the primers again, again, and run everything again. And that is what I've been doing the past few months, past couple months. So that data's finished. That's completely finished, and it looks presentable, it looks fine, it looks good. But I have my fingers crossed. So we'll see.
Okay. Everyone, we've been joined by the master teacher. If you want to come up, the link is there. Just please be mindful of your commentary.
Yeah, we're walking on the edge as it is. And Nikole, I was just looking. Somebody had sent a link to uh, a guy talking about the womb, right? The artificial womb,
Mm-hmm.
Ah,
and they damn near replicated. Remember the video you did about the mouse, the artificial mouse womb, where
Mm-hmm.
you had the yeah. Somebody damn near replicated it almost word for word. Same thing. A white guy did about 8 months ago.
He replicated the whole
No. What I'm
experiment.
saying, no. Basically, replicated what you said about the information.
Oh,
So,
oh,
yeah,
okay.
yeah. So, in other words, as usual, you're ahead. Okay,
Yeah, you have to be. But I thank
you're
you for
cutting
that
edge.
because you and a lot of people that email you,
Hmm.
Adrian and Don Calypso, Dr.
Hmm.
Dunbar here, like a lot of people that send you emails and you send it to me. I'm like, because I'm looking at other things. So when you send me that, I'm like, oh yeah, that happens. Like that's true. Oh, that's
So,
interesting though.
to validate, but I'm glad I have you on because you're probably one of the few people who can actually answer this because and I think Dr. Campbell talked about it, but he actually go through it. Um, is that the difference between Delta and Omicron? Um, you can see the clear path from the Alpha strain to Delta, but Omicron doesn't is divergent from that path. So like Omicron comes from the Beta strain. It's
Mm-hmm.
actually divergent from the Beta strain in a completely separate path. Um, so I'm
Wow.
wondering, have you looked at that, or or can that happen,
Yeah, it
or
can happen. I haven't. I didn't know that. I
yeah,
have to look that
yeah,
up because I was going by functionality, like
hmm
how is it functionally different? Um, I'm like more utilitarian. Like, what is it doing? Like,
yeah, yeah,
like where is it coming from? I don't know. I don't really, some. I mean, I think that's important to know because yeah, they didn't really talk about beta either, so there could be more surprises from beta around the corner.
yeah.
But
Because I'm
I looked
saying,
at the functionality, but I
Yeah,
didn't
I
know.
didn't
I'm
know they had. I didn't know they had different variants, had different
you-
names.
yeah, they
Yeah,
have
Yeah,
different variants. But what I'm saying is that
before
well,
Delta.
because Omicron was to my knowledge functions a whole lot differently from the other strains.
yeah,
It's almost like it's a different creature.
yeah.
And so
But
I
see,
was
you
just
could have an enhanced part of like an enhanced part of beta, for instance,
hmm
that develops into Omicron or mixes with the Omicron variant
Wow.
that you have. So that there's different options like
yeah,
that it can take to survive to remain intact, and that's it seems to be what it's doing. I didn't know that, but I mean, I didn't know that about Omicron from beta,
hmm
for
yeah,
instance. But
because
there's
when it
different types of
mm,
like if you think of how these things are splicing and how variants are developing, there's different forms of alternative splicing that occurs. And when we learned about alternative splicing, it was more about for DNA.
hmm
So now we have to think about it for RNA because this thing has an RNA genome, and not it's not much of a difference. It's just the sequences are the letters of the sequences are a little off. You have a U instead of T. That's really the only difference there. But yeah, this I mean, this is getting crazy and crazier and crazier. Every time I hear about it or talk
hmm
to somebody about it, it's like, what? Yeah,
well, you had said originally, man, like almost 2 years ago, that this little beast is going to be very different.
yeah. But I didn't think it would be like this because they. I didn't think it would be so diverse, and it seems to be diverse in its transmission. from strain to strain. The diversity of that, I didn't expect that. I expected expected us to get through like maybe 4, and then okay, we have it under control and things are mutating downward. But it seems to be like you said, mutating upward. What's going on? What's going on here?
I know everybody's
spreading like
you know,
wildfire.
well, it's spreading out far, but I hear a lot of your scientists cheering for Omicron because they think Omicron is going to get them to the gold standard of herd immunity. It's going to outcompete everything.
Yeah, that's true.
And it's not benign, but it's a more benign form of the disease.
Some
So
people
everybody's
think
cheering for
that's
it.
there's some people that are saying that. That's why when I talked to my boss this past Monday, he did say, like, and this is weeks ago too. He was like, we're just gonna have to everybody's gonna get it. And then I was thinking about it just now, like, that's kind of what he meant. We all gonna have to just get it in herd immunity, pushing you closer to herd immunity. But look how long it took you to get there.
Is that why they struck down his mandate? Well, part of his mandate, they still.
I think
because hospitals still have to take the vaccine. Hospital workers still have to take the vaccine.
I think the Supreme Court knew that it was kind of borderline what he was trying to do, which is a vaccine mandate according to the Constitution.
Yeah,
and I think they were trying to give Trump and him enough time to actually introduce these things without striking it down. But eventually they were going to have to do it. So I think they said, okay, you know what? It looks like Omicron is going to spread, and it looks like you can get herd immunity. So I think it's a good time to go ahead and strike it down instead of follow through what they were going to do anyway. Because they've always refused to look at it for the last 2 years, and I think they refuse to look at it because it's an emergency. So what they've said is if you want to make it a mandate, then you're going to have to go back to Congress. You're going to have to pass a law. You just can't do it from the presidential by executive order. That's really what it is. Can they enforce it? Yeah, they can enforce it. But the thing is, it has to come through Congress to actually do it. Congress has to go ahead and pass a law or pass a mandate through Congress for that to actually happen. And they haven't done it, and I don't think they could get it through. So I think the Supreme Court has kind of been like, okay, we're just going to ignore it and pretend like it's not there until a certain point. Okay, and in other words, they probably told them, hey, you got about this much time to get this done, and if you don't get it done, guess what we got to do? We're going to have to strike this down. So I think they're just doing what they were going to do anyway. That's just my opinion.
Okay.
Okay, AB, you were next after BGS. Did you have a question or a comment or thought?
Yeah, I thought it was interesting that Nikole said that she thinks the Omicron's more dangerous because I've been hearing a whole lot of other stuff that says it's not as the reports I've been seeing is not as dangerous as Delta. But you think it's more dangerous to Delta?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I'm saying based on like I said, the functionality of the virus, how it gets into your body, what makes it more transmissible.
Okay.
The transmission rate. Like I'm pretty sure you're right what you're seeing, but I don't know if those people are vaccinated. I don't know. That makes a difference too.
Yeah, I still wear my mask when I go out. I don't care what I've gotten 2 shots. I've gotten the first 2 shots.
I've been hearing the word vaccinated so much that I'm saying it. But you're right, Dr.
Yeah, I had to put a PSA on my Facebook page. I had to put a PSA out. Look, a vaccine's not a cure. It's designed to help you survive the disease. It's actually a modified version of the disease with antibodies to help you fight the disease. It's not a cure.
Well, so we're gonna try to use the word immunization.
Well, okay, let me put it this way.
I want
Hold on.
Okay, sorry.
Roger, thank you for sharing this. Thank you for stopping through. Also, Dr. T.S.I. Johnson has made an appearance in the chat. So, who's next?
All my PhDs have shown up. Cool.
What's going on, Don Calypso?
Hey, what's up, folks? I was going to say that AB Media's 83's comment. What I would say is people think immunization is like a vibranium shield. You should think about it more in military terms, like when you get intel on the enemies, like their plane's radar signature. So when you get immunized, I'm going to use a proper term. When you get immunization, you're basically giving your immune system, which is basically the military intelligence agency of your body, the information so they can recognize when the pathogen gets here to mount a faster response. So it's not a shield that prevents it from getting there. It's more like, oh, when you see this on the radar, you know you got to shoot it down. So that's how we have to look at it. Unfortunately, with the media, if it bleeds, it leads. So they're not going to be giving you the real, I'm not going to say it's malicious, but they're not always going to give you the real clinical, dry, scientific data. They just want sensationalism. And let's remember, I mean, this is gonna piss off a lot of folks. That's what I do. We're mad scientists here. We're talking about mere mortals. A lot of times it goes over the heads of mere mortals. And if you guys are offended, go to your nearest CVS, Walgreens, or wherever pharmacy you go, Rite Aid, and get some preparation H for your butthurt feelings. But it's the truth.
They don't. I mean, people don't.
Vicious.
You're right.
Yeah.
They don't read the. I used to say, "Oh, I won't say the right articles." No, they don't read. They don't read the right articles. Okay, on the news. They read them all, and they have somebody that says, "Well, this fits our narrative for CNN," so they put that one up there, or Fox or whatever, and they'll put that one up there. But I'm like, wait, you do know that same person you just referenced, they have an article that is very different from this one,
You're talking about news magazine articles or actual
research articles? You know how they have the source at the bottom of the screen?
Yeah.
You have to pause the news. It'll have the source at the bottom of the screen. I go look those sources up. I don't know how people playing.
But you can't just go by whatever conclusion.
There it is. And I see it from the news website. I'll see it on the. I'll look at that link and I'll go to it, and it says PubMed or whatever, and I'm reading. I'm like, wait, this article is not even what they're saying. They just literally quoted like does more, like they'll quote something that's so ridiculous, like does more to reduce transmissibility or transmission, and then they'll go. I'm like reading the article. I'm like, wait, but you didn't quote the rest of the sentence. Does more, it's literally is there. The phrase does more to reduce transmission, comma, without any statistical significance.
Yeah, that's one of the things that's drove me
that's
crazy.
The problem. I was like, wait, that's not real then.
That's driving me crazy about cable news. They're just they claim to be pro-vax, but they're giving misinformation. And I'm like, they're no better than the anti-vaxxers that do it.
Right. When you give misinformation, then people don't trust you, and they don't trust the message you're bringing. That's problematic. Definitely.
I don't think the journalists, first of all, most journalists, I'm not sure if they understand the science. Well, okay, the talking heads in the media who masquerade as journalists, to be politically correct, I'm not sure if they understand the science. And also, like Nikole just said, sometimes they'll just take something out of context. They'll read a piece of it. Some people either deliberately or unintentionally because they don't fully understand. And also sometimes, even if you read the article and even if you quote the conclusions correctly, unless you understand the methods, because they can do something and do a statistical test, but you realize, wait a second, that's not the correct test to use for the study. So it could be wrong. And look, it's been forever since I've been in grad school. I mean, I only took a biometry course, but let's say they do an analysis of variance. Maybe they needed to do a multivariate, but they only did a univariate. Maybe they did a t-test, but they did a two-tailed t-test instead of a one-tailed. Or if the data is not, if the data doesn't fit the normal distribution, you have to do non-parametric tests, statistical tests, and sometimes some people may not get it right, and the general public would not know that. And then you got the politicians who have their agenda, which to hell with the science, it's all about getting votes. I mean, there's so many different factors about it.
Yeah, you need the math and statistics. You're right. You need that to interpret what the heck happened, because everything you're doing is, the effect of what is going on. You're not looking at like the cause as much. You're trying to look at the effect or the function. And so the statistics is used to interpret that. That's really all it is, the math and the statistics. And you're absolutely right. Like I used the wrong t-test once. I was supposed to use a 2-tail t-test. I used a 1-tail t-test, and comparing the graphs, the data was like opposite.
Yeah.
It was really bad. Like from what meaning that like not opposite as in 1-tail gave me data that went increased and 2-tail gave me data that increased. No, opposite meaning like 1-tail the data was significant, 2-tail the data was insignificant, like that, like or vice versa. Like that was the difference. So between getting data that's significant versus data that's not, I could have thrown that whole sample set out in the trash if it says not significant. But I did the wrong test. And so I was like, when I did the right test, it says significant. I was like, okay, now I can repeat. I have confidence to repeat my experiment again from start to finish. And I should get very small margin of error. Oops, standard error. Sorry.
This is why in academia, at least when I worked at Jefferson, after we did all our experiments, we would send our data to a statistics department where they would apply the proper test. When you explain what you want, what you're looking for, what your design is, they would determine the proper test and run it. And that's another thing where those of us here, we're the science. We got a lot of science and tech and engineer folks, but we need the M folks, the mathematicians from the from the STEM. We need more mathematicians to do the actual calculations, because that's outside of our wheelhouse, at least outside of mine.
Yeah, because I was just using GraphPad, but we used to have a department like that too. The computational, well, I don't even think they call them computational anymore. Biostatistics.
Yeah.
But they used to call them computational biology or synthetic biology, and that was their job. You just send them all your data, literally just dozens of Excel worksheets, and they have to go through it.
And that's the thing here. Excel, sometimes you can't even go with Excel. Like, depending on what you're studying, you might have to use a program like SAS, which is super complicated. It's you pretty much it's a very hardcore stat program that you have to basically code your stuff in it. You need people who are specialized in that. Like for biological stuff, SAS would work better than trying to use plain old Excel or.
Yeah, GraphPad is the other, like GraphPad is like is a good alternative, but GraphPad becomes arduous when you have so much data, like patient data or mouse data, and you're trying to put all the data in the right to make it look right and presentable so that it's easy to interpret. Like anybody should be able to a 5th grader should be able to look at the graph and know what it means, right? So that's when I send off the data to the biostats. So like I can't, like the RNA-seq data, we have to do sequencing on RNA. I'm like, I'm not about to sit here. The company sent me back literally 10 Excel worksheets with like 4 tabs on each sheet. I'm like, each file. I'm like, I'm not about to sit here and analyze this. I don't even know what this is. This English? Like, I don't know what this is. So I just send it, forward it to the biostats department, let them do it, because something like that, I'm with you on that. I can't analyze all of that. They have their own, they literally just take the file and just put it into, like they use, GSEA. They just put the whole file into that, which is a sequencing analyzer tool. And I know how to use it. That was one of the software programs I was learning to use last year, but that doesn't mean I want to do it. Somebody gets paid to do that. I know how to do it. So if they mess up, I know where they made their mistakes, but I don't want to process all that. I have Westerns to do. I have simple techniques like Don Calypso. He hates Westerns. That's why I say it.
Look,
I have simple things to do, like Western blocks.
Hey, I want to, for a second, I want to thank Dr. Johnson for sharing the stream. Thank you to 2Triv 211 for the Cash App. Clark S hasn't gotten in yet, so AB, after you say what you say, after you say what you're going to say, Clark S, do you want to say something?
Sure, I'll jump in. Thank you for bringing me up, Dr. Dunbar. Hello to everybody on the panel. Nikole, good to hear you again. Congrats on the little one. I had one question based around the discussion concerning the antibodies. And I guess in a general sense, the question more or less is, outside of the introduction of a vaccine, would the presence of antibodies allude to an active viral presence in the body?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
Hello?
Yeah, can you repeat
in other words, can you simplify it a little bit? Because
Sure. So if there's a test being run to check, I guess, for any type of antibody presence in the body, does that presence of antibodies mean that there's an active viral presence in the body?
Oh, okay. Yeah, not necessarily at the time. Like
Okay, so it could allude to a past
under threshold of detection, but the antibodies being there means something is there. Obviously, something that is a pathogen, or is
or
maybe
something,
not there at a high level.
Or something was there. So
yeah,
you think
okay.
fragments. Yeah.
Okay. So what would be the testing to determine if something was presently there versus past? Do we have that technology available yet, or is
yeah, if you want to take have them take tissue samples of that's what the nose swab is for. In other words, they're trying to find an active virus. That's the difference between an antibody test. Antibody test means there's that it's like a chemical, right? It's like something like if you cook, right? Basically, cook fish or cook something meat, and you have like crumbs or burnt flakes on the skillet. Okay, those are like antibodies. There's fragments that are left over. The meat's not there anymore, right? But the fragments, you can tell what you've cooked by the taste and by the fragments that are still there. Antibodies are like fragments that are still there of a reaction that happened inside your body. Okay, they're not the actual virus. That's like they do. I mean, I'm not don't want to step on Nikole's toes.
You're right.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like for the past, what was there?
What happened, right? It's a reaction of what happened. So your body had a reaction to something, okay? And the antibodies are still there because they've reacted to it. But, those are what actually going to prepare you for the next one in case it happens, right? So they test for that. Yeah. Whereas the nose swab, which is the one they like to do, they're actually capturing the live virus as it's happening.
Yeah,
that's the difference. If I'm not too far off.
Yeah, because they're collecting when they collect the nose swab, they're getting those cells and mucus and everything. And what they're doing, they say it's PCR, but it's RNA. It's RT-PCR. So you're collecting RNA because this is an RNA genome virus. It's not a DNA virus. It's RNA. So when they collect it from you, they have to reverse transcribe that RNA back into DNA and run the PCR. So whatever they look at for PCR primers, they use SARS-2. They're essentially indirectly looking at RNA. You see what I'm saying? Because they've synthetically made synthesized. They've synthesized this DNA. It's not directly from you.
Yeah,
but so that's why when you look at the PCR, that's what it is. That's the virus.
Now, say if you were brave enough and you really wanted to do that, right? Say if you you had COVID, right, and say you had it in the lungs, what they could do is they could take a biopsy of a piece of your lungs and actually look at it under a microscope and actually see the actual live cultured cells actually reacting. Okay, if you wanted to do that, but I think that's a little bit more invasive than most people want to do. Yeah.
Right.
Well, we talked about from large quantities of sputum as well.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Because if you have sputum that's streaked, a blood streak, then there's more than likely going to be cells in the blood that you're coughing up.
Right.
And so the pieces of tissue, so they could do it from that if you're coughing up, streaked sputum that has blood. And but it takes so much of it to do the analysis. That's sometimes the issue because most of that is water.
One thing I was going to say, though, with the PCR test, remember when Kerry Mullis first invented the PCR procedure, he always said it wasn't recommended for diagnostic purposes because, yes, you use the primers to detect the presence of for RT-PCR, either RNA or DNA, and you use the primer, you got the transcription enzymes to amplify copies that you can detect. However, so the PCR and RT-PCR, it detects the presence of genetic material.
Yeah.
But some viruses, they will integrate into your genomic DNA. That's why some viruses you get them, you can't get rid of them. Whereas others, like you
Yeah,
said,
HIV's like that.
That's
yeah,
true.
exactly. Because I mean, think about it. A lot of our DNA, even us as humans right now, most of you is not you. Most of you is actually foreign DNA from viruses
Yeah.
and bacteria. Believe it or not, we're all walking freaks, genetically speaking.
Well, the thing about it is, that's true. And the thing is, you're dealing with a virus that's not based on DNA. That's not a standard like adeno type of virus. You're dealing with a RNA based virus, the retroviral capabilities too. And so that's what sets it, I think sets it apart, because your analysis has to change. Your methods have to change slightly with this.
Yeah. But
We talked about the waning antibodies. What is that a result of? Is that just the natural biological process, blood cleansing itself or cells dying off?
it only lasts for so long. Like when you get, okay, maybe I'm wrong. Dr. Goodbar and Nicole, you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but from what I remember in my immunology classes, when you first get infected with a pathogen, right? Your innate immune system, you got the macrophages, they're attacking the pathogen.
Yeah.
They'll expose, as they chomp down the viral particles or bacteria or whatever, you got those antigen presenting cells that go to I think your thymus and some other in your lymph nodes.
Bone
They
marrow,
present
thymus, lymph node. Yeah.
So they'll present pieces of the protein surfaces, the protein capsule of the pathogen, and that's how it activates your cytotoxic T cells as well as your B cells to produce antibodies against that. So you have some memory cells that keep a record when you've had an invader. But how long the immunity lasts, that kind of, for some viruses, it may last longer than others. That's why some cases you may have to get boosters for immunization after so many years. But, the thing is, depending on the pathogen and depending on how good your immune system is, sometimes your innate immune system can fight it. Other times your adaptive immune system has to kick in. That's when you get the fever, the chills, your body temperature has to go up in order for your immune cells to work better, but it wreaks havoc on the rest of your system. But then in the future, if that same pathogen comes back or a mutated form that's close enough, your body will recognize it. That's what I meant by saying that immunization is basically giving the intelligence agency of your body the intel to recognize it on the radar. But yes, over time that will fade. Now, I don't know why you have all the people in the news, they're trying to so panic by saying that, immunization goes down and stuff. Yes, it always does. It's just that I think what happened is, now that we have social media and a 24-hour news cycle, the mere mortals are finally catching up to what us mad scientists have known for decades, and they're panicking. But I mean, I don't really see why people are panicking. That's how it happens. That's how the immune system works.
Yeah, it doesn't last forever, and it waits. I mean, it has memory. That's why you have memory, because the body, and that's why the immune system, like you're saying, Don Calypso was saying, you have the adaptive immunity, innate immunity, and then adaptive immunity, and that immune response doesn't last that long. I mean, if it did, you die. It can't last that long. There's waning and waxing, ebb and flow to everything. It has to get back to homeostasis. Your body has to get back to homeostasis. And so, of course,
I thought the antibodies always stayed there.
Those cells have to be flushed out at some point. And so that's what happens.
Well,
I thought the antibodies stayed in the blood, but you guys, thank you for breaking that down to me. That makes 100% clear sense to me now.
Well, another thing too, folks, which really pisses me off about the media, how it's been handled in the West, because the fact is, all this talk about, okay, we need to have the immunization, I'm not going to say the V word, not to get Dr. Goodbar in trouble, but nobody's been talking about the natural methods to boost your innate immune system, because all the immunization stuff, that's the adaptive immune system. That's the stuff you do after the enemy has already breached your perimeter. The enemy is already at the camp you got to fight. Your innate immune system, that's the first line of defense. And a lot of times people don't understand, if you're constantly stressed, especially when they've been locking us down, people are constantly scared, constantly using hand sanitizer, Clorox wipe on everything,
Mhm.
you're in a state of stress. That depresses your immune system. That makes you more prone to catch an infection. You're not, people are scared. They're not sleeping right. They're not eating right. They're not getting enough fresh air. I mean, honestly, instead of telling, look, okay, I'm gonna understand the mask mandate, but instead of telling people to lock down and constantly put hand sanitizer, how about wash your hands regularly? Do not touch the mucosal membrane. So don't touch your mouth, nose, eyes. Before you touch your face, make sure you wash your hands. Basic hygiene. I mean, at work, at a pharma company, I go to the bathroom and somebody comes in, uses a urinal, takes a piss, and leaves without washing their hands. I'm like, no wonder this thing is spreading so fast.
Okay.
You got a bunch of pigs out there, people who don't know the basic hygiene. If you don't have basic proper hygiene, any kind of pandemic is going to spread like wildfire. I mean, I don't understand. This is supposed to be the most powerful country in the world and stuff, and basic hygiene principles that in third world countries people apply if they have access to water and soap. Come on, folks. Okay, as you guys can tell, I'm getting triggered, so let me shut up for a second.
Yeah, as Dr. Green Gorilla says, United States practices negative liberty. Instead of what I will do, we practice what I won't do. And I think they make a moral stance on what they won't do. I'm not going to wear a mask. I'm not going to wash my hands. I'm just not going to do it because they have the right not to do it.
Yeah, and I'm just like, okay, that's fine. That's okay. You stay over there. Don't come up here.
Right. Yeah, that's my frustration with the misinformation on the media because I feel they're feeling that more than the anti-vaxxers, the people that don't want to take it. These you got the media lying about what the vaccine actually does for you, and I think it fuels some of these anti-vaxxers. Not all of them. Some of them are jackasses. Excuse me.
Yeah, some people I would hope that people are being more honest with the immunization process because just like what you're saying, AB, and what you were saying earlier too, it's very important. Like if you want people, I mean that's like selling a car and just not saying, but the wheels are square. Come on, man! Like who do you think is gonna buy that? Like it'll get you where you're going, but one wheel is square. Okay, how is it going to get me where I'm going? Or does it have AC and we live in Arizona in July? Come on.
It'll be a bumpy ride with the square wheel.
Or it's just like something that you really need. Like you're in Buffalo, New York in December, and it's like, well, it's good, but it doesn't have heat. The heat is kind of glitchy. Like, no.
All right, listen, Nicole. If it was good enough for if it was good enough for Fred Flintstone and Barney Rubble, it should be good enough for you.
Good enough for you, yeah. Weren't they Americans?
I guess.
That's what I'll say.
Going is easy. Stopping is hard.
I should say they should be, as honest as they can be. Because obviously, BGS, like all of us up here, we know they can be completely honest. But honest, I guess too, with some restrictions. I don't know. Like just tell them what if you want them to do something, just tell them. Just tell the truth as much as you can. Like I've been looking at news broadcast stuff. Like, okay, that's a lie. Like I'm just looking at it. I'm like, that's not true. And Jason's like, why is it not true? Like they've been saying this all week. I was like, oh, I wasn't watching it all week. I said, why are you watching this? And he's like, well, I just wanted to see what they have to say. Like, he watches all of the news, the news channels. And I was like, okay, you really want to see what's going on? You really want to see? Are you sure? Come in close, like. And he's like, okay, here you go again. I was like, come on in close. And I turned to like C-SPAN, or I opened to like PubMed, or opened to like some of the science, the ResearchGate. ResearchGate is where scientists sit and talk to each other about what we're seeing with, like we criticize different people's papers together, together, and we talk about things. And he was like, why didn't they say that on MSNBC? I'm like,
I mean, the thing is, you're married to a world-class expert in this stuff, okay? And you're watching CNN. Come on.
Well, I mean, I understand why, because, also at his job, and then family members and friends and stuff.
Okay.
They'll say, did you see this on there? did you see that? And I'm like, I told him like beginning, I said, do not, I said, whatever you do, the beginning of this, it was like March, the end of March. We were already at home. I was
Mm-hmm.
like, don't, I was like, one thing you can do to help is not watch TV anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Like, not watch the news on TV anymore. Don't watch it. And
Yeah,
he was
yeah.
like,
She's
what is
she
that
fuss.
supposed to do? And I
Yeah,
was like, I'm
the
trying to help.
baby's agreeing with you too. So
Yeah.
she said, "Yeah,
Yeah,
these
agree.
fools." Yeah, she said, "These fools."
Yeah, he's cool. He's we're mortals.
Yeah, I'm a cord cutter. You don't have to worry about me. I don't watch cable. I don't do cable anymore.
Yeah, I
just
have a
have
feeling like you can tell by how people talk about certain things that
Mm-hmm.
they don't really watch it anymore. They're not falling
Yeah.
for it. And I've heard people say exactly what AB was just saying. Like, why
Mm-hmm.
don't you just be honest about things? Like, you sound like the people who
There,
don't want us to get.
there's no profit in being fully honest, though. Here's
No,
the
that's true.
thing. Okay,
Yeah.
okay. I'm not gonna say the actual term again. I don't want Dr. Goodbar to get in trouble, but there was that one word about that the 45 talked about, that that medicine that we often use to combat
Mm-hmm.
plasmodium to keep it from getting into red blood cells for malaria, right?
Mm-hmm.
A very cheap medication.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
Again, everything was so politicized because 45 said it. The whole media went against it. And yes, it is not an antiviral drug. Anybody who knows science and medicine knows that. However, later on, it was found out that one of the mechanisms by which this current coronavirus, because I got to give us a quick sidebar. I don't. Most mere mortals do not even realize that the common cold is
Mm-hmm.
a coronavirus. It's not the
Mm-hmm.
same as COVID-19. Influenza that gives a flu. It's a coronavirus. It's a whole family of viruses. All right.
yeah,
It just so happened that this particular one did. That's why the reason it's called a novel coronavirus. It's not because it's a cheap Harlequin novel you read. No, it's a novel as in it's new to us humans. All right. And it just so happens that over time, as more cases happens and pathology studies were done on people who died of the disease, it was found that, hey, when this virus infects you, one of the things it does is, in addition to give you a respiratory infection, it seems to mess up the hemoglobin in your red blood cells. And one reason why that particular drug that 45 mentioned that the mass media went against, one reason why it helped in early stages, not when somebody was dying and intubated, but in early stages when they just got infected, because I don't know all the details, but whatever mechanism it uses to prevent plasmodium to get into red blood cells when you have malaria, it seems to also have a way of preventing the virus from getting into your red blood cells, and therefore you can still get oxygen to your organs. Whereas
yeah.
people who got it early on, even when they were intubated, they were turning black because they were not getting oxygen to the organs. But because the media was so politicized, because they were so against 45, the fact that maybe even if the guy talks shit, maybe he was right about that, or maybe there's a there. People wouldn't consider it because of all those political ideologies. Again, this is supposed to be the most powerful country, most enlightened country in the world, like Whiskey Tango Foxtrot. That's why you got these mad scientists like us to talk like that. But the powers that be, they don't like it when smart Negroes tell too much truth.
No, they don't.
You over here doing all kinds of crazy stuff. I'm sorry, y'all.
Well, I appreciate him kind of talking around what he was actually saying.
Yeah, we heard it, even if what else did.
I don't want
I
Dr.
heard it.
Goodbar to get in trouble. Oh, the views and opinions expressed by Don Calypso do not necessarily represent the views and opinions of Dr. Goodbar, YouTube, Google, and their associates and affiliates. Those are only the views of Don Calypso. Please do not send any hate mail to Dr.
Oh,
Goodbar.
Lord.
Well, I don't
Oh,
know.
yeah.
I don't know if Roger is still out there, but this might make us honorary habitual line steppers.
Yeah, to say the least.
When it comes to the science, I always step on the line. I don't give a damn.
Yeah, I'm talking. My family always asks me. I said, what did she say? What did she say? I said, she has a life. I can't ask her every question every 5 minutes.
Yeah, I do, and I mean, I try to answer when I can, but it's hard.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, how many you got? How many grants you got going now that you have
I
to?
have 2 grants, and I'm applying for another one, but it won't. I won't be able to submit it until after these grants are done, or
Okay.
like right before they're done, or something. So I
Mm,
can kind of stagger the money. But I can't get anything else now. Um, I'm fully funded, so that's a good thing.
mm-hmm.
We're
But I
talking
still have to work.
RO1.
I still have to go in and do work.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm saying the 2 grants are keeping you busy. I'm sure.
Yeah, the grants keeping me busy, and then I have got Janaya, got a family here, and
Mm-hmm.
it's a lot.
What
But
Oh
kind
yeah.
of grants, Nicole? Are you talking RO1 grant or
no, not R1. I have a supplement. What is that for? A PO1 supplement through
okay.
NIH, and then I have a DoD award. It's what is it called?
If it's DOD, don't say anything more. We don't need Big Brother getting on us.
I forget the name
DOD,
of it.
that's
It's
say
like
no more.
research,
Say no more.
some kind of
Say no
research
more.
award. They have it's a prostate cancer award for DoD. Prostate cancer research award, basically, just a simple prostate cancer research. It's nothing crazy. It's not like DARPA work or
Mm-hmm.
nothing like that. It's just simple
Okay.
stuff for prostate cancer, and then they're both for prostate, but I'm sliding into metabolism as well.
Okay.
So
So,
looking at liver function and trying to reverse liver aging, and
Yeah, yeah. I
that's
think
what we're trying to do.
I still think that's going to be big because I don't think that's ever been tapped. I
Yeah,
don't.
it's difficult because the trials that I'm doing,
Mm-hmm.
just trying to use the cells, and then trials with the mice are
Mm-hmm.
dying.
Mm,
So I think it's
okay.
because we don't have the cells that we want to put in the mice. We don't have them growing yet with the knockout. So we have to get I don't even have the CRISPR. I have Cas9 positive cells, but I don't have the CRISPR plasmids. But yeah, the what is it? The guide RNAs sequences. I have to design the sequences. So I'll do that because the ones we have in the grant, it's like, yeah, those don't work. Like we didn't know that until we got the money, but I was like, damn it. So we didn't try it before. We just said, let's just go ahead and put the sequence in there and see if they give us the money. And then the
Mm-hmm.
sequences that do work, they work, no matter what cell. But the problem with the other sequences is they don't work with all the cells we have. And the cell they don't work with is the main cell we need that it needs to work in. It's a liver cell.
So literally, you can't. What you can't do is get it off the shelf. You have to custom design everything. Huh?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
You have
Well,
to.
it's cutting edge stuff, so that makes sense.
Yeah, everybody, if you use CRISPR, you have to design your own
Mm-hmm.
guide RNAs. There's websites you can go, Synthago, you can design your own guide RNA based on the sequence,
Mm-hmm.
DNA sequence or whatever, and you can say, okay, this is what I want. I want, for me, for instance, I always want the uh, sticky ends. I never want blunt ends because it can go in backwards, get
Okay.
nothing. So you want sticky ends so that it will go in properly with the right restriction enzyme and will work. So many times we tried to do blunt ends with CRISPR Cas9, and it did not work because we were trying to like be extra cheap and
Mm-hmm. I was
getting
gonna
the
say that.
blunt end one
Blunt
extra
ends. Nicole,
and getting the blunt
that's
end of the the plasmid, the
as
RNA
Obi-Wan
guide.
Kenobi would say, that's so uncivilized.
Well, that's what it's called. That's
So
what it's called.
uncivilized.
That is what it's called. It's called blunt ends or sticky ends when you're doing restriction cuts and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
When you're
Hey,
trying to make a virus from scratch, that's what we're trying to do.
Nicole, speaking of your busy schedule, we'll go for about 20 to 30 more minutes.
Okay, yeah, I'm about to go now because I need to put her down. She sleeps like 20 minutes here, 30 minutes there. So
Oh yeah, that's normal. But
okay.
she's really a good baby. She talks, but she doesn't
Yeah,
cut up.
she's not
Normally, when you're on the
quiet.
phone, little babies cut up, but she wants to get in the conversation. She's a very
Yeah,
good
she's looking
baby.
at the screen, spitting.
Yeah,
What do you call that?
yeah,
Spitting.
yeah. She's a
Okay.
really good baby.
Yeah, she's good. She's sleepy. That's why.
Okay.
She will be a good scientist.
Yeah, we can
My
The
tell.
mom
chosen
is the
one.
biggest
Yeah.
scientist. She's very curious.
She said, "Mommy, sticky ends, no blunt ends." That's she's saying it right now.
Exactly.
Yeah.
She,
She's the Sith Ari. She's the chosen one.
she is.
Well, I'll tell you what. We'll just go up. We'll just go ahead and wrap up right now then.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. We
Oh,
you know,
yeah.
I always say,
We're gonna make a
Nicole,
run
you're one of the
anyway,
smartest
so
people I know. So, you know, I
Yeah.
always
What?
appreciate you.
Hmm.
Uh,
I don't
if
think.
anyone
I
wants
don't
to,
believe.
if anyone
I
wants to,
always say I don't believe you, BGS. I don't believe.
I
But
wouldn't
I
say
don't believe you because
I wouldn't say
I
it.
feel the same for you about you, sir. I feel
I
the
wouldn't
same
I
way.
wouldn't say it, and everybody says, well, you know, listen to Nicole, and they come back and say, damn.
uh-huh.
Yeah,
I just
I,
take notes and pray I can
I'm
understand
still
it later.
learning.
everybody that's ever heard you that I've, you know, introduced, they always say, it's like the mouths just drop open, like, damn.
Yeah, I'm
if
still learning. Even though I appreciate it,
Mhm.
I'm still have to be humble. I'm always still learning.
if anyone wants to get a parting shot, Nicole, you go last. Since you're the guest of honor, but if anyone else wants to say something, go ahead.
No, well, I'll just, well, you know, I'll go first. I mean, I appreciate my eggheads, man, because I can't tell you how many lives that you guys have saved just by, you know, bringing this kind of information out, and me being able to spread it, even uh, to Charles, who was, you know, he was pretty close, and I think you guys really saved his life. So there's a bunch of lives that you guys have saved just inside this sphere. So I can't thank you guys enough.
Thank you for your support, Master Teacher.
Thank
What
you.
just
Thank
Oh,
you.
yeah, that goes without saying.
I'll go. Thanks for inviting me up, Dr. Goodball. Good to see you, Nicole, and the baby.
Good to see you too.
Keep it grinding, keep it pushing, keep it moving. I'm gone.
Thanks, AB.
Cool. I'll jump in. Thanks again. Quick question for you, Dr. Dunbar. I know you're
Mhm.
based down in DC. Are you on the policy side, research? What kind is your world down there?
Regulatory.
Okay. Okay. Wonderful.
We
I
I don't want to be too
Sure. No, no, I
broad,
totally
but
understand.
I work on registering a specific chemical type or
Okay.
class.
Totally understand. Love your channel. I'll keep following. Thanks again.
Appreciate that.
All right. Thanks.
Sith Master.
All right. Can you guys hear me clear? For a second, I thought my audio went out. All I just want to say is, thanks for letting me come on. I enjoyed talking with you, Dr. Goodbar, and my dear Sith apprentice. And to anybody who's still in the chat and those who are listening, please remember to hit the like button. Likes are free. We want to get and subscribe to Dr. Goodbar and find your way to Nikole Ali's channel as well. Subscribe to her. Support your Black scientists. Thank you.
All right, Scientist Supreme. Let me start by saying thank you for coming back. I appreciate always being able to talk science with you and collabing with you, but thank you.
Oh, no problem. I always learn something new when I'm here with most people's panels. I learn something new, and like I said, I'm still just learning. But I appreciate you having me up here. I hope that people were able to gain some good information from us having our discussion. Hold on, let me see. I guess for one moment. Where is it? Here it is. I'll just
Okay, there she is.
for one moment. Hey, Poopy, say hello. I can't see it. Poopy. I don't know if you can see her on the camera or not, but
I can see her.
okay. Oh, there she is. It has a delay. So
Yeah.
I'll just say bye and thank you for having me. And you stop being mad. Stop that. But I'll see y'all later. Thank
All
you,
right,
Dr.
Nicole, take
Bar.
care.
Y'all
Thank you
have a
again.
good evening and be safe. Bye.
All right, you too. Bye. All right, everyone. Thank you. Oh, geez. Thank you to Roger. Thank you to BGS. Thank you for Dr. T.S.I. Johnson for not only stopping through, but for sharing this. This channel has only grown. Well, it's grown in large part due to the support of others. So I really appreciate that. Tomorrow, I'm planning to huddle up with Complex Design. We're going to go more into the technology sphere. I'm going to plug this one more time. This is down in the description box. It's the Big Words LLC Newsletter. As many of you know, or many of you don't know, I'm also a writer, and I'm planning on sending out a newsletter once a month. This is below. The subscribe button is there. I promise that your information will not be abused or sold to any third parties if you choose to join my newsletter. So with that, everyone, please stay safe out there. Be cautious. I don't know if I acknowledged this Cash App. Thank you to Constructive Consultant for the Cash App. Much appreciated. Now, everyone stay safe out there. Be cautious and wise. Stay warm. Please like, share, and subscribe. And as always, remember that your attitude determines your altitude. Take care. I'll talk to you the next time. Bye-bye.